Master Grogan here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, we're back again for another exciting Kickin' Life podcast. Well, I guess it's Grogan's Bully Proof and Kickin' Life. Back in the day for the first 150 episodes, it was just Kickin' Life. And then we decided let's spice it up a little bit and get the Grogan's Bully Proof in there and maybe attract a bigger audience because that's the central, well, I guess the main focus, the pinnacle is that Kickin' Life. But we got to become bully proof first. We got to believe in ourselves, so that hope and self-confidence and overcome our challenges, battle through our fears to live our best kick in life. So this is a Spotlight show, and we got a very special guest once again. And I had the honor of being on this gentleman's live stream. I guess was in December, right? One of the last episodes of the year in 2021. So I was extremely grateful for that. So who do we have here? Well, you can see him on the screen if you're watching the live stream. If you're hearing the podcast, you won't be able to see him, but I'm going to describe him. And then, of course, the whole idea here is so if you're only able to hear the podcast, we'll jump on our YouTube channel, Grogan's Bully Proof, and then check out the live stream. That way you can put a face with the voice. Well, who do we have here? He's the owner of Moorpark Karate Krav Maga in Moorpark, California. He started his martial arts training in 1985 and opened his first school in 1996. He's a 7th degree black belt in the American Tung Sudo and holds black belts in Krav Maga and Kinja, oh goodness gracious.
Kintsugo.
Kintsugo, okay, I should know that. And Jiu-Jitsu and combative Hapkido. He's served as a martial arts business consultant since 2010, and he's an active member of community and serves on the board of directors for several local organizations and community events. As an active community member, he attributes the success of his business to his understanding the importance, and this is what's huge, the importance of giving back to those in the community. Because, you know, and you hear me talk about all the time, folks, you've got to support the community that you're a part of simply because they are giving their services to you. You need to, in turn, give it back. And, you know, Zig Ziglar's famous quote is, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And that obviously starts with your local community. Who am I talking about here? Well, first of all, I almost gave it away here. He's born and raised in Conjo Valley, and then moved to Moorpark in 1993 and currently resides with his wife, Jackie, and 2 amazing children, Madison and Mason. I'm talking about Master Jason Flame. Jason, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super excited to chat with you again today and just looking forward to the show.
Awesome sauce. Well, good stuff. And thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to be on your show. I know that continues to grow as well. So it's Master Motivation. Make sure you check him out. He does his Motivation Monday live streams, and he has different guests on for the martial arts community and other communities, and we just kind of have the conversation like we're having right now. But he does an excellent job of a little, I don't say a different twist, but he sometimes has different guests than I have, and that's the way you expand your knowledge, your wisdom, your vocabulary, if you will, by surrounding yourself with people that, you know, are fairly like-minded, but also have the courage to get out there and maybe interview people that don't agree on all levels. So that's how you learn. And that's what I appreciate most about Master Flame there. So I went through your accolades there. By all means, if I missed something, please fill in the blanks and please give a shout out to your wonderful family or friends, because everyone loves hearing their name on the air.
Well, for sure. You know, you mentioned the most important people in my life, which, of course, is my wife, Jackie. We just celebrated on the 23rd of this month, January. It was the 23rd of January was our 29th anniversary of the very first date we went out on. So we've been together since high school. So it's always important to mention her because everything that I've accomplished in my life has been with her support and her love. And then I have 2 children, Madison and Mason. Madison is 19 years old, getting ready to transfer to, she has a choice between 2 schools right now, so I won't give it away yet, but she's going to be transferring to a 4-year school. And my son is a junior in high school, Mason. Super proud of my whole family. And I live in Moorpark. I don't know if maybe the R looked like an N, but it's Moorpark, California. I moved here back in 1993 and was born and raised in Conejo Valley. Lived there most of my life.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, it looks like maybe I better get some different readers on here because, yes, it did look like an N to me. Now I zoom in. It is.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Well, I just bought these, goodness gracious, I guess they're called blue blocker thingamajangers. And it's supposed to help your eyes a little bit. I don't know if they do or not. But it's like a yellow tint now, which Well, anyway, no excuse. It is clearly an R, and I clearly said the wrong thing. So,
That's all right.
oh well. Thanks for helping me out there and correcting me.
Yes,
So,
sir.
those that are in Moonpark, if that even exists, Jason would love to be in your town, but he's not. He's in Moorpark, and he's giving back to that community.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so tell us about. We've got so many things to talk about here, but giving back to communities is always a huge thing to me. We were blessed. The community I was in for, my goodness, 25, 26 years. We won a few years ago Business of the Year for everything we were doing to do in the community as far as giving back and giving presentations and speeches and parades and constantly going into the schools and doing bully awareness and self-protection workshops and just give, which, I didn't always think that way because I just didn't always know that was the thing to do. Now, it seems like common sense, but sometimes the most common things aren't the most common if someone doesn't bring it up to you. And that was kind of my thing. I always wanted to do the right thing, but sometimes, I get the advice, oh, you got to charge for everything you do here. Okay, well, I charge. Well, then I'm not invited back. And so I, well, gosh darn, I thought I did a great job. And then I realized the Zig Ziglar philosophy, like you give, and then it comes back in mysterious ways. And that's what really, really helped build our, get us Business of the Year, but also help our community grow and our martial arts academy grow as well. So tell us about some of the things that you're doing in your community that would help others that not only in the martial arts industry, but any entrepreneur or anybody in the business field or world, or just anybody that mom and dad that wants to help out to help their community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can't start this story or this message without giving the story of why giving back was so important to me. I've told this story on many different interviews, and I talk to when I go and speak to the high schools about the importance of giving back. And when I was a young child, my parents, struggled. My father was in construction, and when things were good, things were great. When things were not good, it was real slim. And there was a point in time where we had to accept assistance. And there was a lady who I remember very distinctly, and the story goes like this. My mom says, let's go get some groceries, let's go get some food. And I said, okay, sure, let's go. And so we get in the car and we drive, and we pull up to this house. And I said, I thought we were going to get groceries. I thought we were going to the store. She said, well, just we're going to go see someone real quick. Walk up to the door, knock, knock, knock. This lady opens the door and says, come on in. And we follow her to her garage, where in her garage she had cans of food, the block cheese, the powdered milk, all the donations that were provided to her to help families like ours that were in need. And I kind of, back then, I didn't look at it the way that I think about it now, and I get goosebumps when I talk about it. But I walked in that room and just went, wow, and we took what we needed, and she helped us out and went home. And we had other people in our life that helped us, quite a bit. And I remember very distinctly as I got into business that I said, if I was ever in a position to where I could help give back to people, or I could help return that favor, I absolutely would. And I'll never forget her name. Her name is Bernadette. I don't remember her last name, but I could vaguely remember what she looked like. But the whole message and the whole feeling of her being there to give us, food when we couldn't go to the store and buy it, right? So it started in our karate school around Thanksgiving. We have our food bank, our food pantry here, and they were looking for donors and supporters. And so we created a kickathon event, and we raised money, and we took that money and we purchased food, and we put that food into baskets. And then the first couple of years, we actually hand delivered them to the homes of the people that were in need, which was really rewarding because my children were young, and I was able to kind of teach them that lesson, even though at the time we were doing okay. But it was a great opportunity to finally give back to what I had received so many years prior. And that continues to this day. We continue to work with the food pantry, and my wife and I just joined a new organization called Team Wish, which essentially does just that, provides food for families in need, but also at Christmas time provides presents and gifts for families that don't have the means to do so. And there's going to be so much more to come this year as we continue to plan. So that's just kind of a start of what we do here in Moorpark. Um, we do the school talks. I love doing school talks. I've always done those for free. I love visiting schools, highlighting my students, spreading the word of martial arts, self-defense, bully proofing, all the great stuff that martial arts has to offer. I'm a member of the board of directors of our Chamber of Commerce, and that has allowed me to not only network with business owners, but help learn more about the business community and how I could help and how we can help each other. Because at the end of the day, you know, we want to try to get everybody to try to help each other, right? The more people we help, the more people will reach out. So again, that's just a little bit of what we do here in Moorpark, and I'd love to take any other questions to go further with that.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And folks, if you're just jumping on, just joining us here, we got Master Jason Flame, and he just talked about all the amazing things he's doing, ideas, tips, suggestions for building a good relationship with your community. And of course, I like to talk about, it's similar. You got the hand that's open, got individuals doing their own thing. However, we close that baby, we make a fist. Now, collectively, we're all working together for a common goal. And this is a heck of a lot stronger, a heck of a lot more powerful, and can achieve a heck of a lot more than individuals just kind of running about their own way, doing their own thing. And I like to tie that into, if Jason's throwing a pebble in the pond and I'm throwing a pebble in the pond and several others are throwing pebbles, yeah, that's great. We're making ripples across that pond. But gosh darn, if we collectively work together and picked up a massive boulder and threw that sucker in the pond, now we're flooding the banks. And that's going to have a much, much greater impact than just individuals doing it. So that's the power of teamwork, power of working together, and of course the power of working with your community, which of course, regardless if you like your community or not, your community in some way, shape, or form is probably giving you a lot. And by giving back, you're going to get a lot more in return. And of course, if your community, you don't like it, then Jason's on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. Get on the board somewhere and make a change. One of the things I posted today was life isn't, oh goodness gracious, I'm going to goof it up on a page. Anyways, like life is not a remote. You got to get up and change it. Or if you want it to change, you got to get up and change it yourself. So it's the same thing. Yeah, if you want things to change, you want things to happen, you can't just sit around and hope and even pray. Yeah, you can pray for things, but sooner or later, God, David prayed for the strength to fight Goliath, but he had to eventually pick up the stone and go to work, right?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when it came to the Chamber of Commerce, I opened my business when I was 19 years old, right? I'm a young kid, didn't know anything about business. All I knew is I could teach martial arts, and I love teaching martial arts, right? And so it was suggested to me to go and join the Chamber of Commerce, and I was like, okay, I'll go check it out, right? And I went to a couple meetings, and I did my best at the time to meet people, and I just kind of looked around, and it was just not a good fit for me at the time. 19 years old, looking around the room at people that had been in business for
longer than you've been alive.
longer than I've been alive, right there. I hate to admit, but I looked around and I'm like, a bunch of old people, right? What am I doing here, right? And so I kind of bailed out on that, and I think that I really missed out big time by doing that, but that was immaturity and inexperience. Many years later, I found myself constantly, I won't say complaining, but I always had a better way to do it. I would do this, I would do that, I would do this, I would do that. And I'm looking at it, and finally I just said, you know what? Instead of sitting back here on the sidelines, why don't I jump in the game and see what I can do? And so I jump in, and when I jump into something, I jump in, as my wife knows. It's either I'm in or I'm out. There's no halfway. I don't just dip my toe in. Like, I got to go all the way in. And so I right away, within months, I'm on the board of directors. Within the first year, became chamber member of the year, man of the year, all these accolades and awards. I became the chairman of the board for 2 years. I'm just coming off the board, and what I wish I could have told my 19-year-old self is, you're doing it wrong. You came in with the attitude of me, 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 and not what can I, instead of what's in it for me, what can I do for you? Right. And that just changed everything. That changed everything. So sitting on the sidelines was, I mean, everybody kind of does that. We talk about armchair quarterbacks, right? And they got the plays, but they're not in there in that moment. But then when you jump in there, you got the chance to change it. And so anybody that doesn't like the position they're in, you're 100% right. If you don't like where you're at, you don't like what's going on, get in there and make a change. See what you can do.
Oh, that is fantastic. Armchair quarterback. I love that too. And folks can see my arm here on the podcast. You're not gonna be able to see it live stream, but serious goosebumps here because, yeah, everybody's got a solution. Everybody's got the the perfect fix. Everybody can be the Monday morning quarterback and tell what went wrong and could have went right. If I would have done it, I would have done it this way. Well, gosh darn it, freaking step up and do it. And yeah, that's another reason I like you so much, sir, is uh, right or wrong, we don't dip the toe in. We just dive in. And more times than not, we found out, gosh darn, the water's 2 inches deep and I got another concussion. Oh, well, I'll get my bearings back and we'll fight another round.
That's right.
Fantastic. But no, you're exactly right. And congratulations on all the accolades and all the awards. And I'm working on another book project, and I've got asked to be an author in this book with 40 different authors. And I can't give you more details on it just yet. It should be out by the end of March, early April. But I wrote, and here was one of the things I talked about. In between 2001 and 2008, I achieved a lot, but I also lost a lot more. And I talk about some of the successes and then some of the setbacks and then some of the failures. And of course, I consider, yes, you failed at this event maybe, but doesn't mean you're a failed person. A failed event does not mean a failed life. You simply pick it up and learn from it and move on. And, that's where the wisdom comes from, because he who's had few failures is he who's lived. So you need to get out there and fail, and fail forward, as John Maxwell says. But the last part of all this, and I got actually a question mark by it because I probably want to rewrite it, but it says this: the price of feeding my fragile ego, that's it. The price of feeding my fragile ego nearly cost me everything, and is another great example of dealing with that bully within, that self-bully that's in our own mind. And what to me is the biggest bully of all of us is that ego. And I like to think ego is an acronym for edging God out or edging greatness out. It's like, you know what? I got this. But most of the time we're doing it so I can get the spotlight, so I can be the one to shine, so I can say I won. And I know, growing up dirt poor on a farm, growing up with all these weeds and limiting beliefs in my mind that, Richie, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not smart enough. Richie, you're always going to be, quote, quote, a dumb farm boy. And I'm 51 years old. For some reason, those weeds will pop up from time to time, and I'll hear that. And for the longest part in life, I used that as my Bobby Boucher tackling fuel to anybody that told me I couldn't do something. I'd be like, a big F you to the world. I'll show you I can do it. But it was all about feeding or trying to strengthen that fragile ego. And then I heard of a guy named Zig Ziglar, and he's all talking about helping others. The only way you can really do that or get everything you want in life is by helping enough other people get what they want. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, but he's got into something here. And obviously we know that Zig was. So good stuff, man. Wow. All that from working with the chamber. Is that amazing?
It is. It is. Well, it's just like you said, when it comes down to when you're thinking me, you're just in this tunnel, right? And it's really hard to get outside that tunnel. But when you do step outside and you start helping other people rise up and you help other people have that opportunity, to me, my students and my instructors and my family success is such a bigger success for me than anything that I can do on my own. I mean, I really take a lot of pride in watching my instructors teach, watching my kids succeed in what they do, watching my wife shine when she puts on an amazing event or does, an amazing job at fundraising for some of our local organizations. It's just, I kind of like the backseat a little bit more now than I ever did, because gosh, was I a spotlight hound when I was in my teens and in my 20s, and that ego, whew, and it really did stem from being a kind of a shy kid. Maybe I don't want to say that we were poor, but I mean, there were definitely times that we did without, some of those insecurities that came out. Didn't have a lot of friends. I was picked on. I was bullied in school. And so, you know, my ego wanted me to succeed in everything and do all of these things because, like you said, it's a big F you to everybody else. I can do it. Right. And now it's all about me. But many years later, took a long time. But seeing others succeed is one of the happiest moments for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. And once again, folks, if you're not following Master Jason Flame, make sure you do so. He's got, if you're watching the live stream here, hashtag Master Motivation, check him out. He's got a YouTube channel. He does his Monday Motivation live streams every Monday. He's got a different guest on with a different background. And it's all about motivating and empowering others. And I like to say with hope and self-confidence, to believe in themselves, to be who God intended for you to be. But you can't You can't just sit there. You got to take the advice, take the suggestions, and it maybe it won't. What we're saying here today, maybe. Well, I would think that not every point is going to resonate with you. If it does, my gosh, praising to us, holy cow, that would be a first. But take what you can. Each little nugget is from either my experience, Master Flame's experience, or the people we've surrounded ourselves with. And it's our goal to pass that on to you. You pass that on to somebody else. And you hear me say this all the time at the end of every one of my video blogs, podcasts, whatever. If you found value in this message, please share it with someone else. And that's how we continue to not only build the tribe, but that's how we continue to get the word out to others. And my ultimate goal is to make society not just help, but actually let's make society a happier, healthier, and safer place to live. And that's going to be a better society for our kids. And that's a better society for us all to live in. And I like to say happy, healthy people, mentally strong, physically strong, happy and healthy. It's going to make society safer because when people are unhappy, that's when they bully. That's when they go shoot up schools. That's when they're carjacking and robbing. Happy, healthy people don't do that stuff. So let's do what we can to empower others. And Master Flame has definitely done an amazing job of listing all the different things that he's done with his community that you can do too. As awesome as he is, and I'm gonna hit him with the right hook of reality. He knows this. He's okay with this, but he's no different than anybody else. He's just special in his own way, just like you're special in your own way. But you got to be willing to get out there and do something, not just sitting there complaining about how bad everything is. Take a stand, gosh darn it. Be you.
Love it.
Wowzers. So we're both Tung Sudo guys, and that's not the most popular martial art in the world. So a lot of times when we talk about Tung Sudo, it comes with an explanation of exactly what it is. And of course, it's way of the Chinese hand. But part of the American Tung Sudo, and I don't think, for whatever reason, I know we've spoke a couple times, I started off with the American Mudaquan Tung Sudo back in, goodness, 79, 80. And my first instructor was with him for quite a while. And then I stopped to pursue my NHL career. I was going to be a pro hockey player. That didn't work out, but that's okay. I started back with my instructor I've been with now for 30-something years. And he, lo and behold, happened to be the instructor of my first instructor, which I didn't know at the time. Now, how crazy is that? But the Tung Sudo world's kind of small. But anyway, we converted from that to the United States Tung Sudo, which converted to the United States Supakto Mudaquan, and so forth down the road. And I actually parted ways with the Federation in 2014. It was one of the toughest things I had to do, but it was definitely the right decision at the right time to move on. Kwanjanim Wong Ki passed away in 2002. And from then on, I wasn't sure that the core values were in alignment, but it took me until 2014 to actually move on. But with all that being said, you've pretty much done the same thing by going out in several different styles and continuing to build. And I know we've spoke before. I don't know if exactly about this point, but I can, in our communications, I've always appreciated the Bruce Lee philosophy of you take it all in, every single bit of everything. You disregard which this isn't you, doesn't align with your core values. But then most importantly, and I think this is often forgotten, you add your special, unique, God-given talents. And that's how you make it uniquely your own, which makes it something special. Now, a lot of old school traditionals will say, well, you can't taint the art. The art's pure, you can't mess with it. Well, my thoughts on that is, look, 2,000 years ago when someone created the arts, they did, right? Well, our experiences, we're going to create what we feel is best for what is going to help our society and align with our core values. Pretty much the same with everything you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. I have had the opportunity to train in different styles. When people ask me about Tong Sudo, I usually use two words: Chuck Norris. Right. as soon as you say Chuck Norris, people go, "Oh, okay, all right, got it."
Oh, yeah.
My instructor Dennis Ichikawa taught and trained with Chuck Norris. Back in the 70s. I believe he's number 67 with Chuck Norris. It was the National Tong Sudo Congress, I believe, at that time, and there was all kinds of splinters. All martial arts have these organizations, and there's splinters of the organization. But I didn't start Tong Sudo until 1985. Dennis Ichikawa was my first instructor, and has always been my instructor. And but he introduced me to people that allowed me to learn other things, and from there I would meet more people. And so the second instructor that I've really been close with most recently is Mark Cox, who I got involved with Krav Maga. Now he started training Krav Maga maybe 20 years ago, and the whole thing was, Tong Sudo, much like Taekwondo and a lot of the Korean arts, are not as focused on the reality-based self-defense, and so we would do self-defense, but maybe it was just not the most realistic, right? And I'm a firm believer in tradition. I still love forms. A lot of people ask me why I still teach traditional forms. I really like them. I think they have a lot of value. I know a lot of my students like them, but I also wanted to find a way to kind of plug that gap of where maybe Tong Sudo was falling a little short, with a stronger base of self-defense. And then, of course, we went on to offer a full-time Krav Maga program. And in between those two is when I got involved in combat Hapkido. That again was I was looking for the self-defense aspect. Ketsugo Jiu-Jitsu. It's a Japanese style Jiu-Jitsu, so it was more of an Aikido Judo blend. We did a lot of joint locks and takedowns and throws. And my instructor, Kyoshi Chris DePalma, who also happens to be my partner in another business that maybe we'll talk about later. But we went to high school together and we trained together. Funny story: we were sitting in Spanish class and we knew each other. And he did Ketsugo Jiu Jitsu. I did American Tong Sudo, and we would always kind of have which one's better, right?
Yep.
And we said, well, we're not going to fight to see which one's better. How about you train a guy and I'll train a guy, and we'll make our guys fight. And so we kind of did this whole thing, and they actually never even fought. My student would have won for sure. Who
Well,
actually was this?
absolutely.
My student ended up becoming Chris's student and went on to earn his black belt with Chris, which is totally interesting. But anyway, so we've known each other, so high school, 92, 91. We've been friends ever since. And the Ketsugo Jiu-Jitsu really blended in everything all together. And of course, having friends in the martial arts and having consulted martial arts schools all across the country, I've gotten exposed to a lot. And right back to what you said about Bruce Lee's philosophy is taking everything in and discarding what is not of use. And I think that's what we've done effectively with our curriculum. I'm very happy with what we teach. I'm very proud of what we teach. I'm always looking to learn more. I know, because what I was doing in 1996 when I opened my school and what I'm doing now are totally different. And there's been several incarnations. If there's one thing that my students or instructors or anybody that's been with me long enough knows, is that I'm not really tied to anything forever. If this technique is no longer as effective as I once thought it was, we're going to get rid of that. I was one of the first Tong Sudo schools in our organization, at least, that adopted a rotating curriculum. Nobody thought that you could do rotating curriculum in Tong Sudo. And we've effectively been able to blend that into our program because I feel it works well with our students. It works well with our instructors. And it's a great system for teaching everything that we want them to learn before they earn their black belt. So, yeah, totally in agreement with the Bruce Lee statement and how I've gone through my martial arts. And now, as I'm approaching time to test for my second degree in Krav Maga, I'm still learning. I'm still training. I'm still teaching. I still enjoy it. I feel the aches and pains a little bit more than I used to. The recovery is not as quick, but my love and passion. As a matter of fact, I was teaching yesterday, and when you get so excited that your voice starts going out, or you sit down when you get home and you're like, man, I don't remember that it taking that much energy to teach as it did yesterday. But I taught the whole day of classes, and man, I still have a blast doing that.
Oh, that's fantastic on so many levels. And I think what I definitely like the most, because I agree with all of it, but to the most is, and it's not a shot. Sometimes we gotta. I feel I don't toe the line there, of saying the effectiveness, because of course, in those that are in the martial arts community, it's always about. Well, it's almost like my dad can kick your dad's butt, right? My martial art is so much better than your martial art. Da, 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 da. Well, let's learn from each other and grow together, right? But the I know I don't know what it was. Like, we had some 36 different wrist grabs that we had to do for each. I mean, I think total it was like 4 per rank or something. I don't remember because I've kind of moved on from that. which is fine. And I get the concept. It's teaching you different applications and different techniques off of just a wrist grab. And then if you're open enough, you can apply that to anything else. The problem is it took, you're teaching a white belt and a yellow belt and orange belt, all these different wrist grabs, but we're not really teaching them to effectively protect themselves against the tackle or a headlock or a punch or anything that I've ever seen on a playground, or adults, anything I've ever seen in a bar setting or out in public or in the parking lot between cars. So my whole goal with what we did was try and evolve to make it more, instead of kind of a static thing, more of a dynamic type of self-defense, meaning anything I'd ever seen on the playground, in the locker room, in the parking lot, or at a bar, let's work with that. Now, it took a lot to formulate all that because, I don't know, everybody's got their zone of genius. Mine just happens to be self-defense and just coming up with scenarios. So every week I was changing it up, which was my goal was, look, man, I'm giving you as much as I can here. Take and run with it. But that's not the way most people learn. And it was really, really rough on a lot of instructors. Like, well, last week we did it this way. Yeah, but you know what? I saw while watching some classes, too many kids were struggling with, let's change it to this. Let's change it to this. And that's good that we're kind of always trying to evolve to make it more accessible, because it doesn't matter what I know. If my students go out and get their butt kicked or hurt, then obviously I didn't do a very good job of teaching and training them. But at the same time, I've got to be a little more consistent as far as changing things up as continuously as I did. And that led to, another problem. So anyway, long story short, yeah, absolutely. And so I say, well, are we changing that again? I said, well, we're going to run with it for a few weeks, maybe a month or two, with our rotating curriculum. If it doesn't work, then we're going to apply something else. And that went on for, I don't know how many years. And it was frustrating to the instructors, the students, and even myself. But now I feel we've got a good, solid foundation. But a lot of that, and I'm telling you, because we talked about ego earlier, when I left the Federation, it was another F you to the world. I'll show you how much better my students are. And I was all about me showing you what I could do, as opposed to me really, even though my heart was trying to show the students, the ego was in the way of it. So I kind of caught that. And now I'm extremely happy with what we teach. It's basic, it's fundamentals, but gosh darn it, it's effective in every possible scenario. And I give the kids, even on the first day, something that will protect them, because who knows, maybe they only come to one class, but I want them to have at least the tools to protect themselves when they're encountered with some type of attack. And that we call that in our ABCs to become bully proof. Awareness is number one. Being aware of what's going on, being aware of where your hands are, being aware of where you're walking, where you're at. And that's, self-protection. Number one is self-awareness. Good stuff. So second degree in jiu-jitsu coming up here. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, second degree in Krav Maga. I never ranked in jiu-jitsu after that first level. I just kind of started getting into the other things. Krav Maga is the one that's probably the most consistent. Being a 7th degree black belt in American Tong Sudo and eligible to earn my 8th degree, I struggle with that a little bit because as I mentioned, Mr. Cox is one of my instructors, and he's an 8th degree, and then our instructor Dennis Ichikawa is a 9th degree, and I just kind of feel like there's that hierarchy in martial arts that should be upheld, and so as long as Mr. Ichikawa is at the top, Mr. Cox will be number 2, and I struggle, even though he's given me his blessing and his permission to go to 8th degree. I just kind of hesitate. But the 2nd degree in Krav Maga, it's like anything else, right? The more you learn what you don't know. And Krav Maga has opened my eyes to so much, but in a lot of ways, it opened something inside of me that was always there. Because as I train with Mr. Cox and how we learn self-defense, because he's, if you don't know Mr. Cox, super aggressive dude, very like out there, and so the way he taught self-defense was pretty much the same as the Krav mindset that we teach now. Is just a little different technique, and so I always felt at home with that. I always felt comfortable with that, and our Krav Maga organization is growing. We have several schools in the Southern California area, and we also have a school in Idaho and Hawaii, and just a bunch of schools, like-minded people. I really love the vibe and love the training that we go through, because there's a lot of pressure testing, and there's a lot of checking to make sure that what we're teaching is really working in a real world scenario. I have never served, but there are several people that have served in the military or law enforcement that this is a make or break, save your life situation, right? So if we're teaching stuff that isn't working, we're basically teaching people to get killed. So you want to make sure that we're teaching the best stuff possible, and the only way to do that is continue to pressure test it. And I kind of like that pressure. I kind of like that scenario training. We have a full-time kill house in our Chatsworth school, and so we'll use that for our self-defense training and going through and room clearing, all kinds of different stuff. It's something way above and beyond what I ever did. Most of what I did in Tong Soo Do coming up was a lot of sport karate. I loved point fighting. I loved competing in general. And then I really loved XMA, extreme martial arts. And now we're kind of bringing it back in our school. A good friend of mine, Kevin Kowalczyk, is starting his Raptor Extreme martial arts program. So you're going to be seeing that popping up all over and seeing that represented on the tournament circuit. So, just kind of always finding different ways to stay involved. Second degree is second degree is second degree. It's been almost 2 years since I earned my first degree. And, it's the next step. It's important for me to lead by example and to test and show my students, where they can go. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that, having a lot of fun with it.
That's fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing that. And most importantly to me, keeps touching my heart here is the humility of your seventh degree. I mean, that's an extremely high honorable rank. But keep the honor, the integrity, the humility of what Tang Soo Do, what the martial arts is all about. But then on the other side, to continue to evolve and expand, especially with Krav Maga there. And I like what you said. I may have the phrasing wrong, but it's kind of battle tested to make sure it's still effective, still working, and still worthy. Especially if you're training somebody in the military, man. That's not just about somebody getting their butt kicked on the playground or in a parking lot. We're talking it's a life or death situation there. So excellent stuff. Well, let's move on and talk about the where's it? Oh, your business consulting business that you'd mentioned earlier, and everything you're doing there, and exactly how somebody can get a hold of you and what you're doing to kind of pass on the knowledge that you've achieved, you've earned, you've learned, not only the combative side, as we talked about with martial arts and Krav Maga and Tang Soo Do, but a lot of let's see how to put this. Growing up with especially Tang Soo Do and especially the organization we were with, you couldn't have a successful studio and quality students at the same time. That was just you couldn't do it. Absolutely not. If you've got more than 25, 30 students, then you're producing garbage. You've sold out. You're a McDojo, and your students are junk. You're going to get them hurt, and da 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 da. I heard that for 20 something years, and then I started getting out and meeting others like Haji Dave Kovar. I know we're both a mentor. He's a mentor to both of us there, and Chip Townsend, Brandon Beliso, and so many common. I'm missing somebody. When I try and explain this, obviously, Master Jason Flame. We're all out there, and I'm finding out, my gosh, you can have. But not only can you have a successful studio, you can break away from the quote hard walled tradition and expand on what you're doing to better serve your students. And our thing is all about practical self-defense and life skills. That's what we focus on. And we used to go to the tournaments, we used to do all these other things, but I was trying to be everything to everyone. And of course, when you do that, you end up being nothing to no one. And so now we kind of focus in, but most importantly, our studio has grown. We've expanded our time to black belt now to almost 7 years, where I always believed it should be at least 5 years. And unfortunately, our organization we're with, they chopped it down to 2.5 years. Now, to each their own, but to me, I want the kids to earn it, gosh darn it, and put in the time. And not everybody's going to test just because you and I are we've started together. Doesn't mean we necessarily test together. It's who's putting in the time. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, as I often do. But I'm sure you've heard that you can't have quality students and a successful studio. So obviously, with what you're doing with your consulting business, I'm sure you're kind of addressing that.
Yeah, so let's go back to how I got involved in that, because most of the consulting that I do now is for friends and just school owners that are local that need help. But I opened my school at 19 years old. It was 1996 when I opened the doors to the first my first school. Prior to that, I had taught for all of my instructors. Got my black belt. Uh, Learned how to kind of run the school at a certain level, and my instructor opened a school by starting at a rec center. So that's all I knew, right? So in 94, I went out and started a program at a rec center, built up enough students to be able to pay the rent. When I opened my first facility, I think the rent was $1,200, I think. And I probably had $1,300 in the bank, right? So I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about you know anything really, other than I could teach a pretty good class.
Teach class,
people
baby. That's
pe-
all. That's all I
people
need.
seem to people I mean, when my classes are packed, I mean, either they like me or they like what I teach or they like both, right? So I figure, well, and I love the experience of teaching students and what it did for them. But I thought it was time for me to go out on my own. I knew that the opportunity to have a career at the school I was at was not going to happen. My instructor encouraged me to open a school, so I did. And I operated from about 96 until, I don't know, 2002, literally by the seat of my pants. As long as I made enough money to cover my expenses, both business and personal, I was happy. It was fine. It was my wife and I. She had a full time job, uh, at the time, so we had dual income. We got married in '99. My daughter was born in 2002, and I started thinking to myself, well, this income is not gonna cut it for what we want for our daughter, what we want for our family. It's just not going to get us to the level that we want to be. So I need to figure out a way to make this business make more money, or I need to get another job. And I knew I did not want to do that. I grew up doing construction with my dad, and I did not want to do that. I did that for about 6 to 9 months prior to my wife and I getting married, just to save a little extra money for our honeymoon. And I was working from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'd get off, run to the studio, and start teaching by 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock. And man, I wasn't going to go back to doing that. I couldn't. My body would not handle it. So I had to figure out how to run the business, and I had to figure out, how these other schools, because I started hearing about these other schools that were doing amazing, and their students were good. Their students were good, and they were making a lot of money. So there's something I'm missing here. I went to my very first super show, martial arts super show in Vegas. That was when I was first exposed. I did not go through the era of the EFC events and those. Um, I didn't do any of that stuff prior. I went to the martial arts super show very first thing. Um, and then I attended this event called the Success Seminar, which was led at that time by Frank Silverman, Mike Metzger. Um, Robbie Beard was just coming in. I think Keith Scott was there. And I'm listening to these guys, and I'm like, this sounds really good. This is amazing, right? And
Do you remember
so
what year that was?
so that's got to be about, I think that's got to be about 2004.
Oh
is
my.
is
Okay.
yeah, right. And so I'm sitting in here, and little did I know what they were doing really was a mass intro. Right? I mean, they
Yeah.
had a whole bunch of school owners in a room, and they were going to pitch a program, and it was X amount of dollars. But if you sign up today, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, but it was done perfectly because I felt so motivated, so inspired that I got to do this. And remember, I said the rent was like $1,200 a month, and we were probably at the time, we weren't killing it. I can say, let's just say that it was $1,000 a month to join the Maya Elite program, which would give me access to consulting and special events and quarterly seminars and so on and so forth. Right. So I asked my wife, and she's like, if you think this is going to help, let's do it. I'm like, okay, cool. So we jump in, not having any idea of how this is going to work out, because I mean, this is $1,000. Like, I'm not paying $1,000 for anything else, but I'm paying $1,000 for consulting. And so I'm learning a lot, changing my business literally within the first 3 months. of Mr. Metzger, Mike Metzger, who is my business consultant, always will be. He's my mentor. Uh, he got me to triple my gross income within the first 3 months, and then we continued to grow and grow and grow. Stayed with the program for 3 years. It was a 3-year program at that time. Well, it was initially a 1 year. Then if you upgraded, it was a 3-year program, and finished that. And so, Metzger sits me down and he says, what do you think about coming on board and being a consultant for Maya? And I said, are you kidding me? I'm like a blue belt, like that's what I felt like, you know. And so he says, I think you got what it takes. And just to hear that, I mean, to hear your instructor or to hear your mentor, to hear your parent say, you got this, you can do it. That was so empowering for me. I just I, I I didn't know what to say other than yes, absolutely, I'm in, right? Like that was the team. That was to me, that was the A team in all of martial arts business. Frank, Mike, Robbie, those guys are, I mean, amazing. And so I jumped in and I started consulting with Maya. That was probably about 2009, I think, when I did my first speaking assignment. So did that and hung out with those guys, learned so much. Every time I went to an event, even though I was consulting, I'm still learning a lot. And right before COVID, things kind of changed, and I started kind of drifting away from consulting and working more on some other business that I had going on. We partnered and opened a restaurant here in Moorpark. We're partnering and opening an ice cream shop kind of up here. So kind of dipping my fingers in other things. And I felt like, my time, just like my time had run out teaching for my instructor and it was time to go out on my own. I felt like I was getting to the end and it was time to go out and do my own thing. Because I was in the chamber and doing all that stuff. And so now I simply, I don't consult for money. Um, I may get back into that at a later date, but all my friends in our Krav Maga organization, all my friends that have their Tong Soo Do schools, and a lot of my clients that I've had over the past 10 years will still reach out and call me and we'll talk. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned Kevin Kowalczyk, who
Yeah.
he's a really good friend of mine. We met each other because he was a client. He was one of my first clients with Maya, and so we still have that friendship to today. So it's been great. It's been a really good run. I've gotten to meet a lot of people at the Super Show, a lot of people. Meeting people like Dave Kovar, and you said Chip Townsend, and just meeting Mike Dillard, the owner of Century Martial Arts, and Ricardo Laborio, John Hackelman. Like I can go on and on and on and drop 100 names. I just kind of sit, Master Bill Clark, Ernie Reyes,
Oh, yeah.
sitting down with these guys. I'm just like, who am I? Who might even sit at the table with these people? But here I am, and I'm enjoying it and I'm loving it. And now with the podcast, I've got the chance to come back and interview a lot of these school owners, and it's just amazing. It's been a really, really great experience.
Oh, that is fantastic. And boy, I'm just a goosebumpy mess here. So everything you shared there, I think we got quite a few folks listening in. And as always, folks, if you jump on here, you got a question for myself or in this case, Master Jason Flame or any of our guests, please just type it in the chat box. We'll get back to you there. But if you can kind of relate to some of these stories, and I always like to say, not everybody is in martial arts. So a lot of our listeners, followers aren't, but I always feel you can take something from everything. The experience that Master Flame mentioned here in regards to, hey, he had kind of run this well dry, so he decided to go on and do this now. He's moving on to other things. He's opening restaurants and ice cream shops. And of course, that's the attributes of a serial entrepreneur. You know what? I think I'm going to try this now. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this now. But that's based on the experience, the knowledge, and the wisdom you've learned from success and failure. But the most important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, it's I talk about, and you've heard me say it earlier in this presentation, that up until 2012, I didn't know I could read because I chose not to. But then I heard of Zig Ziglar, and I started going to conferences. I started reading and listening to Audible, anything I get my hands on. And the biggest thing, and just like you alluded to, sir, is when you surround yourself with successful people, you learn what it took to get there. Now, number one, they all self-educated. Number two, they had a growth mindset. which I'd never even heard of before. Mine was always, growing up poor, then all the rich people are bad because they have somehow stole from the poor. And if you got a successful martial arts studio, you don't have quality students. You know what? That was a limited mindset. That was weeds in my mental garden. But what I found when I started going to all these conferences and all these different events, that every single one of them self-educated, they all read, they had an encyclopedia of knowledge. But the biggest thing, they were all willing to share that knowledge. And I'm like, what the heck? And then when you said that Mike Metzger asked you or said, you know what? Why don't you come aboard the team here? I got the goosebumps that, and I can't speak for you, but I don't want to assume, but I'm just going to say this. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it's like, me? How am I worthy to be on this board? How am I worthy to be a part of Maya Group? How am I worthy to speak on behalf of you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just me. Well, I'll let you answer that in just a sec, but I'm going to say this because I see it more and more and more, and you see it with your students, you see it with your instructors. Now you're on the other side of the fence. So when you say that to them, hey, you're going to be a part of this team. And they're like, really, me? And the biggest reason for that is they saw something in you that maybe you felt about yourself, but you didn't fully see in yourself. And it helped bring that out. Just like when you see something in the student that brings that out. And the second part on that is, that's what I kind of my biggest message I try and get across. If you get up and do the work, you do the little things day in and day out, you are going to stand out in a crowd because unfortunately, most people don't do it. And by doing it, you set yourself apart and you create those opportunities. I'm not a believer in luck at all. You didn't get lucky. Luck is when preparation was met with opportunity. You prepared all those years by working your butt off, and then the opportunity presented itself, and then, okay, you got lucky. No. You had prepared for it, and that opportunity presented itself, and you didn't just sit back. You took action. So I unfolded a lot there, but
Yeah. No, and you're 100% right, because that's exactly what I was thinking when I'm sitting there and he's asking me this question. I'm asking myself, who am I? Why me? I'm not at that level. But what I didn't realize is he wasn't looking at where I was. He was looking at where he knew I could go. Right. And so I look at my team of instructors now, and I have a very young team of instructors. Mr. John Haw is our head instructor. He's 20 years old. I remember hiring him when he was 14 years old, and he was kind of a quiet, shy kid, and super, super outgoing. He dressed up as Shaggy one year from Scooby Doo, and that was like kind of his look and his demeanor. He's just like kind of cool, happy dude, and I mean, I love the kid. And during COVID, we put him on Zoom, and I said, I want to push him, to find himself a little bit more. And oh my gosh, the change in his personality, the change in his demeanor, the change in his confidence. I have a 20-year-old man that can run this school, and makes me super proud, right? And because I wasn't looking at where he was, I was looking at where I knew he could go. And then I have three other staff members, Joshua, Emily, Garrett. We just hired a new young lady, Shaylee. They're all 14, 15 years old, young kids. Man, I look back at me at 14, 15, and I was teaching, and I'm like, who the heck put me in charge of this? My instructor saw something, and I'm always looking. I really kind of pride myself. Each one of those four, by the way, this is their first job. First job they ever got paid for. How cool is that, to be able to provide someone's first job? And not only provide their first job, but give them the skills and the tools that maybe later, who knows if they're going to be a career martial artist. I would love that. I would love for them to have that opportunity. But, I had a young man who was 19 years old when he started with me, one of my best friends, Nick Kennedy. And he taught for me, ran the school, program director, manager, the whole deal. And now his son and his daughter train with us. They're 5 and 3, I think. And I'm looking at him, and we talk all the time. He's a police officer now, and he goes, "You would not believe the amount of things that I learned working for you at the martial arts school that I use in law enforcement." And it's everything from the systems of how we do things to just the attitude and the attention to detail. He tells me that he likes to take his rookies, because one of my pet peeves is the bathroom. If the bathroom is not like super clean, I lose my mind. And like, it's got to be like, you can't see any dust on it. There's no color, nothing, right? And he tells me, I take my rookies out and I'll take them and I'll make them clean it. So I see how they clean a toilet to see if they're, if they're going to be paying attention in detail. Hope I don't get them in trouble for that. Anyway, and, but just seeing these young kids do what they do, looking at them not for who they are now, but who they could be in years to come. It's just, it blows me away. It just blows me away. I'm super impressed, super proud of my team.
Gosh darn. And it's something I've tried to, because, well, my own kids, my own instructors, a lot of the students growing up, they never understood. And at times, I guess I'm pretty rough. And I don't mean to come across that way, but all I know is life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Life is tough. Life is going to hand it to you. So I would be rough without explaining. Now, my dad, I talk about him. He's a wounded Vietnam vet. I mean, he's fully functional, but he was 68, 69 is a 101st Airborne, so actually provided mortar support to Hamburger Hill. So he had a traumatic experience, obviously, and death everywhere. But I always felt like I was that Johnny Cash song, "A Boy Named Sue," could have been a boy named Richie growing up, because he became an over-the-road truck driver when he got back from Nam, and he was never around. And we grew up on a farm, so I'm milking cows, shoveling the horse poop, baling hay, and it was never good enough. And I'm like, dang, what the heck? My dad's always mean to me. Well, I didn't know at the time he was trying to toughen me up for the world. So when I get older, I have kids, I'm going to talk to them more. Well, I found myself not doing as much as I should, because in my heart I was doing the right thing, but in the heart my dad was doing the right thing too. So what I started doing, I don't remember what year it was, probably the year I started reading in 2012, was I started telling him, look, I'm never going to talk to you as you are. I'm never going to treat you as you are. I'm going to talk to you, treat you, and try and train you as I know you can be. I'm going to try and pull that out of you to be the very best you can be. Yeah, I would love for you to be with me forever. Chances are it's not going to happen. I would love that. But all I know is I want you to go away, regardless how long you're with me, with the tools to stand out in the crowd. People say, man, there is something different about that kid. I don't know what it is, but there's something different. He makes eye contact. She's got her shoulders back. She walks proud. She says please and thank you. Attention to detail, respect, all those little things that today they're lost. And that's a big thing. Presentations and speeches, I said, look, you want to stand out in the crowd? It's easier than ever. Make eye contact, say please and thank you, and take pride and respect in what you do. That's it. That's it. It should be more than that, but essentially that's it.
Right. No, absolutely. And you touched on something again. Mike Metzger posted something the other day. He said, "It's not my job to be easy on you. It's my job to bring out the greatness in you." And man, that just resonates with me so deep. I actually brought that up in my classes several times this week, because, as you mentioned, I have to sometimes remember that they're 3 and 4, or they're 8. My wife says, "They're itty bitty. You're a little loud." And I said, "I'm just so excited and so passionate." And I have to, like, sometimes tell them, like, Master Flame's a little gruff. I'm a little tough and loud. I said, "But it's because I want the best from you." I have to tell the parents, and I love when I do this, because I wouldn't have done this as a kid. When I was a teenager, I probably would have just been yelling loud. I was like a military drill sergeant, and that's just the way it was. And I wouldn't even talk to the parents. Now it's like I kind of look at the parents, because being a father and how I talk to my kids, sometimes my kids look at me and they're like, "Dad, does everything have to be a lesson?" Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Everything is a lesson, everything I say. So just be quiet and listen. But no, I sit there
Shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. I tell the parents, I explain to them what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and I see them shake their head, and I see them smile, and I know that's when I know, okay, I'm in the right spot. So sometimes, come across a little rough, a little tough, but it's all with great intentions, and we always want to bring out the best in our students.
That's fantastic. Well, yeah, and that connection, just kind of explaining that. And I just mentioned to the parents and just passed it on, and it started several years ago. Look, there's this old philosophy in Korea. So I got an opportunity to train over there 4 different times. If the instructor takes time to talk to you, you have earned that respect from them, because time is the most sacred commodity. If they ignore you, then it's because they don't care. So by me doing what I can, time's a sacred thing. I want you to be your best. So if I'm spending time talking to you, working with you, it's because I care about you. Know that. I'm not just letting you run on. And of course, kids and teens, adults, parents, everybody wants to feel like they're important. And when you give them a piece of you time and talk to them, man, you're giving them a piece of your life. You're helping them to feel important. But at the same time, you're kind of saying, look, I'm going to push you to be your best because I know there's more in you. I know you can be your best. And then I get into the Rocky speech about the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows, because sooner or later you're going to get knocked down. I want you to have condition those perseverance muscles to get back up to fight another round, not condition those give up and quit muscles, because we're always going to be faced with that choice. The longer you lay there, the harder it is to get up. The quicker you get up, as much as you don't want to, the more you're going to strengthen yourself for that next battle that comes along. And then people often say, well, gosh darn, I handled that battle, but this battle is so much tougher. And my reply to that is, well, it wouldn't be a battle if it wasn't tougher. I mean, that's just the way it is, because you've established the skills to overcome what used to be a battle. It's not even a battle anymore. And sort of like John Maxwell always talked about, if you're a level 2 problem solver and you've got a level 3 problem, that's astronomical. But when you mature into a level 5 problem solver, a level 3 and 4 doesn't even fit on your radar, because you've adapted and learned those skills in order to overcome those battles and those challenges. And that just means you're simply growing and moving forward. And by having the mentors you've had in your life, and now the mentors you are in so many countless others' lives, man, that's when I talked about the boulder, the power of the fist. That's what's happening here, collectively working together and making society a happier, healthier, and safer place to live. Holy schmokarooskies. Good stuff.
Yeah, great. It's been awesome.
Man, oh man. So I've kind of bragged on you here about where to find you, this and that. Give yourself a personal shout out in regards to, obviously the folks that are watching this can see the master or hashtag master motivation, but on the podcast, they're not going to, well, hopefully they'll listen to the podcast and then go watch the YouTube video so they can see us in person.
Sure.
And still post your questions, folks, even if you're watching it after the fact. We'll definitely get back and answer those. But give yourself a huge shout out where people can find you, especially anybody in your area that would love to come and have Master Jason Flame and his amazing team empower them personally.
Sure. Well, once again, I'm in Moorpark, California, and I can be reached
Moorpark, not Moon Park.
Not Moon Park, but there might be a Moon Park out there. I don't know. But I'm pretty visible on Facebook, so you can simply find me, Jason Flame, or if you want to go to my professional page, it's Master Jason Flame, and I'm on Instagram also, Master Jason Flame. It's Master_Jason_Flame. I think you'll be able to find those pretty easy, and the podcast is on our YouTube channel at Master Jason Flame. So pretty easy to find. Would love to have more people kind of check out some of those videos. I've had amazing guests over this last year. I just got started in 2021 with a guest every single Monday. It's 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 12 p.m. California time. And new guests every week. And my guests include not only martial artists, I've had several professional wrestlers. It's something we really didn't talk about today, but I got involved in pro wrestling several years ago. So I've met quite a few people in that genre. We have a lot of independent pro wrestlers here in Southern California, and also some very powerful women that are in business and speakers and authors. And I'm excited to announce that I just joined the Connected Learners Academy with Jose Escobar. So
oh my gosh,
that's going to be an awesome group. If you're interested in that, we can connect there. And gosh, what else is coming up? I mean, it seems like every day I'm trying to kind of meet new people. I think that's my theme for the last 2 years, is just really connect with as many new people as possible and see if we can connect each other in the right way to reach our goals and to be our best. Like Mr. Grogan says, we want to live a kicking life.
Oh, thanks for the tag there. Booyah. And to quote Charlie Tremendous Jones, what he said was, the only difference between the person you are today and the person you'll be in 5 years are the books you read and the people you meet. And because, as I mentioned in 2012, when I started getting out there and moving around, and by the way, my first martial arts super show, easy for me to say, was I think 2014. So you had a few years on me for that eye-opening experience there. It's tremendous when you get out there and travel and meet, and the encyclopedia of a knowledge that is that everybody has, but the people that have kind of experience the failures, the setbacks, and what they've done to overcome that, my gosh, pick their brains. And we've had several comments. Bubba Illinois, who's a bodyguard, he's been on the show before. I wanted to pass on, have a blessed day. And then good friend of mine from back in Illinois, Josh Barber. You guys are kicking life's butt. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that, buddy. Booyah. And for our new fans that maybe don't know, what I consider bully proof is having that hope and self-confidence to believe in yourself, to stand up to any bully you face, both real and in your mind, to live that Kickin' Life. And Kickin' Life is getting back up one more time, to fight one more round, to live the life that God has intended for you to live with that God-given talent. And that's a Kickin' Life. You're essentially kicking life's butt instead of letting it kick your butt. Now, it's going to, but you're going to get back up and kick back. And obviously, Master Flame has talked about all the things that he has done in his short, I don't think you're 50 yet, right? 47?
No, sir. I'll be 48 this year.
48 this year. And goodness gracious. And like I said, until I was 42, I didn't know I could read because I chose not to. So in a short amount of time, I've amassed quite a library collection, not bragging on myself, but I'm saying, look, this guy, the quote, as I was called a lot as a kid, the dumb farm boy, it continue to grow and learn. But my new attitude is not a big F you to the world like it was for many, many years. It's, hey, what can I do to use the knowledge that I've gained, the experience that I've gained from the guests like Mr. Jason Flame and many others that have met over the years, to empower somebody else who maybe thinks the same way that I used to think, or had those limiting beliefs, or had that bully within telling you that that's all you're ever going to be. No, you got to be willing to fight. Like I said, David prayed a lot, King David, but he eventually had to pick up the stone and go to work and fight in Goliath. And that's the message we talked about not only today, but on every one of the shows. You got to make if you want to change, you got to be the one to do it. You can either have the victim mindset, why is this happening to me? Or have the victor, the hero mindset, why are they picking me? Is it because, oh my gosh. So it's both the same question. Why me? Why is this happening to me? Why are they picking me? Why are they picking on me? Well, why are they picking on me? We'll never know. But what are you going to do about it? Why are they picking me? It's because you worked your butt off to earn it. Preparation met with opportunity. That, if you would like to say luck, that is luck.
Great stuff. Good stuff, man.
Holy smokerooskies. Well, golly, buddy, thank you so much for the time, the knowledge, the wisdom. Thank you very much for having me on your show. And we're going to have to do this again. And obviously, I've got your number. You got my number. And
Yes,
reach out anytime for anything. Please just even share. I know we connect a lot on social media as well, sharing each other's empowering messages to empower others. So folks out there listening, follow Master Flame. Check him out there. He mentioned he gave the hashtags, or the Instagram handles, and his YouTube channel, Facebook page. And of course, if you're in the area, the Moorpark, California, keep saying because I said Moon Park earlier, if you're just tuning in, check him out there. And please, if you want to empower your kids, one of the best things to do is get them enrolled in a quality martial arts program, because the life skills, the character development, the leadership, it's there, all wrapped up in one. And they learn how to protect themselves too. I mean, that's a key component. But the other things, character development, life skills, and leadership, I think are just so essential, especially today.
totally
Any
agree.
last closing words?
No, the last thing I want to finish with, and I mentioned this quote before, is if you're still thinking, what's in it for me, try to change that mindset into what can I do for you? How can I serve? I think that'll change your life.
Yeah, what's everybody's favorite radio station is WIFM, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Mhm.
Turn the dial there, as Master Flame just said.
That's
All
right.
right, folks. I love you. Jason loves you. God loves you. Please love yourself enough to share that love with the world. And until we talk again, you get out there and do your best. And I promise you'll be your very best. You'll become bully proof, and you'll live your best kicking life. God bless you. God bless your loved ones. Can't wait to read your comments. Can't wait to chat with you again real soon. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye. All right. All right.